Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on this channel. I know it's been a while, but I will try my best to go back to a regular schedule of a 1 week upload. In this video I'm going to be talking about a new game that I have not yet before, and that will be Overwatch, as Season 6 dropped the 10th of August I think. With it we got a watered down version of the much anticipated PVE missions, as well as a new hero. And that's about it I think. Oh yeah, can't forget the new battle pass, but that should be complimentary as one releases every season. Whilst there is much content to unpack from season 6, I'm going to be focusing primarily on the free missions you get for the £13 invasion pack. As I haven't played the free missions yet, nor have I experienced the new hero in any form of matchmaking. With this new invasion pack, I'm going to be doing a full rundown in this video, if it's worth it, what you actually get, what you could have got, and the pros and cons. To actually access these missions, just go over to play, the new missions tab, and this is where you'll have access to all of the new missions, including the free ones and the paid ones. First up we have Resistance, which takes place in Rio de Janeiro, and then we have Liberation, which takes place in Toronto, and last but not least Ironclad, which takes place in Sweden. Then you have the event missions, which are free by the way. You have Underworld, Death from Above, and Ultimate Zones. And as you can see, the free missions do get released after a certain time period. For example, the last one is releasing in 1 day. And it's also important to keep in mind that with each of these missions you do get 5 difficulties, normal being way too easy and legendary pretty much impossible for some of the later missions. So starting off with what you actually do get for paying your cold hard-earned £13. Well, you get the free invasion missions, the Rio one, Toronto, and Sweden. Of course this does vary greatly based on your skill and difficulty which you are playing at, but one of these missions should take you around 20 to 30 minutes to complete. Let's just say I'm being very generous today. Each of these free missions could take you around 35 minutes, times that by 3 and you get a total playtime of under 2 hours, 1 hour 45 minutes. So quickly getting this out the way, right off the bat we know that the playtime to price ratio is already incredibly low, coming in at under 2 hours for 13 quid. But realistically most people aren't just going to play the free missions and be done with it. They're going to try out some other difficulties, play with some other friends, etc, etc. So you'll get around, I don't know, 5 more hours of playtime. But really that still isn't very good for the price. Oh well, I guess it's the best Blizzard can do at the moment. By the way, we waited at least 4 years for this. At least 4 years for this. Under 2 hours of gameplay. However, there is no need for that. It's important to keep our heads high in moments like this. I'm sure we'll be getting many missions in the future seasons, as well as more free missions of high quality. So no problem. One place where I do have to give props to the PvE is in the free missions. Sweden for example is a completely new location, doesn't use any assets from other maps. However, Toronto and Rio do use assets, although Toronto less so, and Rio, I'd say maybe half of it is reused assets. Or maybe even less than 50%, as the spaceship bit is entirely new and we have some juicy cutscenes in between. Another W that these free missions take is that they have a decent amount of cinematics, although I do think they use the game's engine, but they still look pretty good. Every time I was watching through these cinematics, because there ain't no way I'm skipping these after the 13 quid I paid, I always think to myself, this is the closest thing we're ever getting to an Overwatch story mode. Because you know, making a story mode just simply isn't profitable. It has to be online, it's not live service, and instead we're gonna focus on our unbalanced multiplayer. I think I'm going a little bit off track. But anyway, getting back to the Rio mission is actually a place in the lore where we get introduced to Lucio for the first time in his hometown. Even though this PvE mission does reuse many assets from the multiplayer map, it also seamlessly connects them, which is nice. Another thing that I do like about this PvE mode is the variety of enemies that you can get, going up from a small fry all the way up to a big boss. Each of these new enemy types posing a different threat each, as well as containing different weapons. And a lot of these new enemy types, especially those laughing serpent things which you get in the second mission in Toronto, it's really useful, for example, to have Baptiste, so you can throw down an immortality and prevent your teammates getting knocked down. And with mini-boss enemy types such as the Null Sector artillery bot, it's really useful to have some quick character such as Tracer or Genji. For each mission I'm pretty sure you're limited to 5 to 10 characters which you can pick from, all of them having some sort of relevance to the certain map situation and lore. In these missions you do usually get a choice of character, except from when you have to pick a character to actually start the mission. For example, to progress with the Rio de Janeiro mission you need to pick Lucio to actually begin the mission, but this makes sense as they are part of the cinematics as well as the voice lines during that game. Now earlier on I mentioned what we could have gotten from this PVE mode which was promised to us so long ago by Blizzard. It was no other than Overwatch 2's PVE, hero progression system and talent system, which we have not got. This whole skill tree, hero progression, talent system was very much anticipated by many fans, as it would have added a whole nother level of depth into the PVE game mode. If this system would have stayed in place, it would have let us do some crazy things such as turn into a snowball when playing Mei. As you're playing a Soldier 76, you could actually go around knocking back enemies with this force field around you and use your heal ability while you're on the go. However, sadly with the cancellation of the PVE mode, all of this skill tree, talent, hero progression system went straight into the bin. I kind of wish that they would have repurposed or reused at least some of these existing features, but unfortunately in the current free invasion missions there is no such thing. However, the bosses are quite good. Yeah, I think for the first Rio mission, that one where it charges at you in the reactor core in the middle, that was a pretty good one. And of course the Titan in the last mission of the Sweden one, that was actually really cool as we saw in the Paris trailer for PvE. What's cool is for the bosses, for example the Charger one in Rio, you could actually target different parts of their body to weaken. It's just for boss fights such as the final Titan one, I wish you as the player would do more to actually take it out rather than just watching some cinematic or get some turrets to be shot at it. I mean seriously, the Titan really didn't do much, like occasionally one laser beam, a few missiles, and it stood pretty far away from you. Another thing that I'd like to mention is that the 2018 archive missions, they are like eerily similar to what this is, and in some aspects, as some of the UI, character selection, etc, they are even a little bit less polished, and this just further elaborates the question, what the hell has Blizzard been doing for all these years? Once you actually get to fighting the enemies, they are quite alright. I mean, the design looks really good, the way they are rendered, however the actual AI can be very questionable at times. It's just basic and not advanced at all. But as I said previously, the lore expansion is very good, the cinematics are very good, the dialogue is simply next level, and at the end of the Tourbillon mission you get to do some really fun stuff such as setting up custom turrets in whichever place you'd like. These include new turrets that can freeze enemies and move them into a random direction. Before I give my final conclusion if it's worth getting this new invasion bundle, I think it's only fair to talk a little bit about Winston's Lab. Winston's Lab is a place where you can actually access the missions to play them, as well as look into an intel database where you can look at general intel from different organizations and enemy types. A nice little addition to have all these things to look at. And now for what really matters, is the new Overwatch Season 6 Invasion PvE bundle worth it for $15/13 quid? I'm going to say for the money it's not worth it. It's pretty much just some archive missions with a price tag on them. Because the gameplay itself is very repetitive, can't be replayed at all, and doesn't really, excel in anything particularly, I just don't think it's worth it for the gameplay. Maybe for the lore and the cinematics, the voice lines, etc. Definitely, but then again, to experience all of the lore aspects, you can just watch a YouTube video. But then again, if you got some friends that are willing to go throughout all of the difficulties with you and you're a diehard fan of the game, then why not go for it? Also, considering you get 1000 points within this bundle, so you can actually get the battle pass or some cosmetics, in terms of taking that into account, it is kind of worth it. That is if you're willing to pay for the battle pass and play through and unlock all of the tiers. All in all, it's amazing what a team of dedicated developers can do in a mere 4 years time. Can't wait to see the next set of missions in the season 26. It's been CCZ Productions, I hope you're having a nice day, make sure to like and subscribe to not miss any future content, and I will see you guys in a future video. Goodbye.